Welcome this evening to the Setting SMART Goals Junior Golf Hub Workshop. I'm Roger Nick, your host. I'm here with a panel of experts, and we're going to be going through the SMART Goals worksheet with you tonight. And we're really excited about this because we think it's going to help you reach your ultimate goals in golf and hopefully in life as well. Our panel of panelists tonight is Dr. Josh Brandt. He is a clinical psychologist. He's here at the Performance Center. We have Brittany Romagna. She's here with us. She is a mental health expert. And we have Rick Dowling, who's a customer success manager at the Junior Golf Hub. So welcome this evening. And we're really excited about getting started here. So let's get started. First thing is, why are you here? Why are we here, Dr. Brandt?
Yeah, we thought this would be a great way to start this conversation because one of the most important parts of goal setting is commitment. So when we talk about why are you here, this really needs to come from you, right? If you're being motivated by other people, by a coach, by parents, other family member, even friends, there's going to be a different relationship to the goals that you set in your life. So we're making one huge assumption about you all tonight is that you're here because you want to get better. And if you're not here, if you're here because of friends or family or coaches, that's fine too. But all the research tells us really clearly that the more you can have a personal commitment to your goal, the more effective it'll be and the more likely you're going to achieve it. So really check in with yourself tonight about why you're here.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Brandt.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So what to expect from tonight? You're going to learn why SMART goals are important, and we're going to explore the process of setting SMART goals and find out if a weakness could actually become a goal. Spoiler, it can.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. So goal setting, really simple. It's something we do every day, whether it's getting up to go to school or to eat breakfast or to train, to study for a test. Goal setting is something that is an inherent part of who we are. More formally, we can look at this definition and just simply coming up with a process of deciding what you want to accomplish and devising a plan to achieve those desired results. Really simple, but really important, right? We're going to get a lot clearer tonight on some really specific things that are going to help you develop to be the best player you can. We're going to use the SMART goal acronym, right? SMART goals has been around for a long time. We want you to develop specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely goals. You can look at the bottom of that screen, like what do you want to do? How will you know when you've achieved it? Is it in your power to accomplish it? Can you realistically achieve it? And when exactly do you want to accomplish it by? These are all things that are characteristic of really well-designed goals and something you'll leave tonight's workshop knowing more about.
So why is SMART goal setting important? If you have an ambiguous goal and you don't really know when you're reaching it, then it's hard to keep on pushing forward with that goal. So having a SMART goal provides clarity and focus, increases your motivation to actually meet those goals, and then improves your ability to achieve those goals and know when you have achieved your goals.
Yeah, bottom line, you set better goals, you're going to play better golf.
Is that guaranteed?
Probably, yeah. All right, so how do we identify a goal, right? Obviously, the first thing we need to do is find out what we need to work on. We had you all dive into this, I think, a really effective exercise in order to do that by focusing on strengths and weaknesses. A lot of good research coming out now about the importance of focusing on strengths, but we also know that the best athletes in the world are able to identify their weaknesses and start to strengthen those so that they can have a much more well-rounded approach to in this case, into golf. So how do we do that? We wanted you to look at your weaknesses. All right, so tonight we thought it would be good. We actually had Rick throw out one of the things that he's working on. Rick's a really accomplished player, but still really there are things that he needs to work on too. Coincidentally, this thing that we're going to talk about tonight, Rick's wedge game sucking, right? It's also happens to be one of the more significant characteristics that we've noticed about players on the PDI as well. A lot of people struggle with their wedge game. The better players, the people that have more success at the next level, don't suck at their wedge game. So if you can identify that as a weakness, it's definitely something that's going to help you get better. So we're going to take this particular weakness and we're actually going to work it through the worksheet that we're going to have you participate in as well. But we want to kind of get a little bit clearer about what a specific goal is, because the S in SMART goals is specific, and we want to make sure we get really clear on what that is. The clearer you make that goal, the more specific you make that goal, the more effective the goal setting technique is going to be for you. So, right, look at the goal that you set look at the weakness that you're picking as the number one weakness of your game. And then hopefully you've reframed that as a goal. So we've intentionally kind of made this goal not as ideal as we could, right? So if we say my wedge game sucks, we frame that as a goal. I will get better with my wedges. Is that necessarily the most specific thing that we can start to talk about with our wedge game? I asked the panel.
Yep, I don't think so.
I thought it was good.
I'd say
good. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
When it comes to SMART goals, we need to get really specific. There are so many different aspects of wedge play that we need to consider. So again, take a moment now to look over your weakness, take a look to see if you've reframed it in a specific way. Here's a couple of questions that can be helpful to you to better identify a specific goal. What is it exactly you want to accomplish? And have you identified the specific area of weakness? Right? So again, wedge play, we can work on so many different things. For Rick in particular, he's identified a particular area of his wedge game that he struggles with. So we've taken that particular area of weakness and really got clear on it. So you can see a difference between I will get better with my wedges, and then we get that really clear and specific, and we say I will improve my distance control from 100 to 120 yards by decreasing average proximity to the hole from 30 feet to 20 feet. Now, your goal is going to be really different. Your weakness is going to be different. But for the sake of this workshop, we want to work through that particular goal. And obviously, Rick has studied his game enough to know that from 100 to 120 yards in, right, 30 feet is about his average proximity, and he wants to decrease that by 10 feet. So again, yours is going to be different, but for the sake of this workshop, we're going to use this as a model to work through the worksheet.
Perfect. So now we're going to get right into the live activity for tonight's workshop. Andrew's going to pop the link to our SMART Goals activity for tonight into the chat. If you want to type it in, there's the URL right there on the slide. I'll give you guys, everyone, a moment to get that up and running. I'm going to pull my worksheet up. Scroll to the top. All right, so there's my first weakness. I talked to Roger, I talked to my friends that I play golf with, and I talked to my dad, who I actually play a lot of golf with, and the common thread that came to the forefront was that my wedges could probably be closer to the hole, and I don't hit them well sometimes. I might even have the wrong equipment in the wedges in my bag. So I thought I took that and I summarized it into my wedge game is not very good. It's tough love, it sucks, right? And then I thought a good reframe goal was that I'll just get better with my wedges. But we changed that into the very defined proximity and the yardage right here.
Yeah, so we want you to do the same. So make sure at this moment, really get clear again. Maybe you've already done it. Maybe it's very specific, but we want you to enter that data into the section of the worksheet on the right-hand side. And then we're going to talk you through the rest of it as well.
Great. So I got my specific information about that wedge goal. And now it asked me, Britt, do you want to ask the question?
Sure. So let's just workshop this a little bit. We'll go through the columns here. So next, what area of development does the goal focus on? Would you say it's mental, physical, technical, equipment, social, medical? What are you thinking?
When I thought about the wedges, I thought it was technical because it pertains to how I swing the golf club, and physical, obviously, because my body is moving. I could probably move better to move the club better. And then I thought equipment as well because I'm using a wedge and that's part of my bag. Am I missing something?
Yeah, I think one of the coach assessment was your intention was just to hit the green with your wedges. It seemed that you had gotten so far that you were just trying to hit the green. So your intention, your mental side of it may be a little skewed as well. And maybe that just because you kind of were feeling a little bad about your wedge game to begin with.
All right, so I'll add mental in here.
All right, so next, what is the step-by-step process of how you're going to come?
So how I thought about that was that I would just practice my wedges, and then assess to see if I was getting any better, and then practice more and reassess to kind of rinse and repeat that process, and then maybe add as well some data from my real rounds that when I hit wedges in that same goal yardage, that how am I doing? That's how I thought about that part.
That sounds great. Any area for improvement in that one, do you think?
Yeah, I would say practice is, when we're trying to get as specific as we can, practice is not specific enough. So I'll turn to you, Roger, as an expert. What would be something that he could do to practice from 100 to 120 yards?
Well, specifically is to go to that yardage and say, I'm going to work with these wedges to get these shots within this certain parameter. So again, perfect practice makes perfect, not just practice, right? So I would be more specific to what am I practicing while I'm out there. So having a plan in place will help that.
Yeah, for sure, right? So making sure, Rick, that you actually go to the yardage that you wanted to work on.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea too of, and we'll get a little bit more into this later on, but really assessing and reassessing. I think that's brilliant.
So next, what do you want to accomplish with this?
Yeah, what I wanted to accomplish, assessing my wedge game, was to definitely hit the ball closer to the hole when I have a wedge in my hand.
Anything to add to this one? You think that column's looking good?
Yeah, again, it's kind of, I'd love Rick to get a little more specific about what that means, right? Again, we're really trying to hone in on decreasing his proximity from 30 feet to 20 feet. So how could he, I'd like him to focus a little bit more on what he wants to accomplish. So, because otherwise he might, kind of misread the situation as well and hit a shot and not know that was really actually improvement, or hit a shot and not know that was something that didn't work towards his goal. So I'd want to make sure that he had it set up in such a way that he could get really clear on whether or not he was decreasing proximity or increasing.
Is that better? I defined the clubs I used as well as the yardages that I often use those clubs
Yeah,
at.
great. Love it.
Okay.
The more specific, the better.
So who's involved in this goal?
Myself, I have to put the work in. My coaches, who are going to help me maybe set up some drills that are going to push these shots to get better for me. My friends that I play with.
Anything that either of you would add? I think that this is a great question. I think that identifying your social supports here is really important. And even looking at, aside from performance measures, what else do you need to keep pushing forward in your golf game? Maybe it is something that's off the field too that you need support with, and who's involved in that process. So really take time to, take account of who's there involved in this journey for you and add them to this column.
I want to just jump in there too. We also don't want to lose sight of the specific goal. So if we're working on proximity to the hole, I love what you're saying, Brett, and I think it's great. When we're talking about this specific goal that we're attaining, like, would you have your coach actually standing out at 100 or 120 yards, measuring a distance, right? We also want to get really clear on, who's going to actually help me achieve this specific goal. So you might want to have someone out there with a measuring device to see actually how close you were to that. So that's another way we can add people to get involved, not just in the bigger picture, always important, but specific to this goal. We also want to be able to have, this might be something you just work on yourself, Nick, too, but you could also enroll on people.
Good.
Great. So next question here, where is it going to happen?
So back to the elements that I thought went into this getting better was maintaining the way I move in the gym, and then in practice on the range or at the facility I work at.
Anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I'm thinking too, again, I think most of this work is going to be done on the practice range. I think this is always the tricky part about setting goals. When you add in the gym, I think we might be talking about a different goal at that point. Right? That might be a physical goal about getting stronger or improving flexibility or something like that. But when we're talking again about this specific goal, it's most likely going to happen on the range, on the course, some type of practice facility. So be careful when you're setting up these goals not to add in. I don't disagree that being in the gym and getting stronger and more flexible or whatever you're going to be working on that you think is going to be helpful to that. But when we're really getting specific, we need to dial in there.
Is that specific enough?
Yeah, great. GPC National.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go back one more, and you're talking about your wedge plays or wedges that you're using. And again, going back to your equipment side of things, right, is that you may have to tweak your equipment. So you may need to get your equipment manager, if you will, or your club fitter involved to, maybe it's a lawful eye issue, so understanding that. So that person may be involved as well because you're struggling with that. So I think that's really important too.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the next question here. What resources are available to help me achieve my goal?
My coaches, the facility I'm going to be doing this at, and my practice plan or the structure that's going to keep me in line when I'm trying to work on it.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier technology. I think, obviously something like a foresight that's giving you feedback. I think it's really important that you're getting specific feedback to your yardage, your ball speeds, things like that. So I think that's going to be important. So making sure that you have the right equipment to get this done. Because again, hitting it out there without measuring that is, again, maybe you're just guessing at it.
Yeah, for sure.
What are those things called? The ball flight monitor? Is that what it's called?
Ball flight monitor, yeah.
Yeah. Was that what it was for?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
All right, so we are now officially specific. Let's move on to measurable. So the first question for measurable is, do I have a baseline measurement to start from? This is really important. So what do you have down for this, Rick?
Yeah, honestly, all I got was bad feedback from people I asked. I kind of said I could probably get better at it, but I don't really know like the numbers that are telling me that I'm bad at it. So I thought I needed to just like set up shop and hit balls and figure out my success rate from those. I should probably change the yardages, but that's kind of how I framed that one.
Yeah.
So knowing specifically that, and this could come from tournament play, it could come from a launch monitor, it could come from observation from a friend or a coach, but knowing that you specifically struggle from 100 to 120 in, right, that it's really important to know that that's your baseline measurement from that distance, and to more specifically know that we defined in the specific, right, that it's your average proximity to hole from 100 to 120 is 30 feet. So that's something that you could measure again from tournament, from launch monitor, or from someone observing. But you need to get really clear on what that baseline is so you have something to compare it to.
And I just want to add, and maybe this is the wrong point in this, but I think, for you in the audience is understanding that, you go back to realistic goals and setting this, is it, or achievable goals, is, junior golfers compared to, PGA Tour players, that's different. Rick is in a space in his game where he's a very accomplished golfer, as you mentioned. So make sure that what you're setting is, where you need to be. So I think that's another, a way to be more specific to that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so how are you going to measure the progress?
So I get the baseline from that initial measurement, or the first assessment that I do with my coach, and then from there I'll know how to address that with the practice program for 2 weeks, and then maybe, like I said before, it's kind of like that rinse and repeat, practice, reassess schedule.
Right?
Yeah, I love it. That was one of the, when you showed me this, I think this is a great one. You can always play around with the immediate feedback is good, but sometimes having immediate feedback can kind of also get in the way. But I like the idea, like on average over a 2 week period, did my proximity to the hole improve or did it not? Really like that.
All right, this next column here, I really like. How do I chart my progress? I think that it's important to have this all maybe in a notebook or in a spreadsheet and make sure that you're constantly looking back and congratulating your small wins as you're working towards these goals, because if you have it charted, you're going to be able to see that you're actually moving forward. If you're moving the needle slowly, it doesn't matter. You're going in the right direction. So how are you planning on charting your progress with this goal?
Yeah, I guess I read that question wrong. I just put baseline in 2 weeks again, but I didn't take it literally. Where am I going to do that, or in what medium? But now that I know that, I'm going to change my answer.
All right, so what are you thinking?
Thanks, Britt. I think I'm going to keep track of them in a Excel doc, and then I'm going to upload that doc over the number of weeks into my Junior Golf Hub account, so I can actually see that amongst all my other things.
Perfect.
One of the things you have on the Junior Golf Hub is your practice sheet or your workflow there. So keeping track of that is another place.
Exactly.
So you're always live with it.
And how are you going to know when the goal has been accomplished?
This one was tough. I thought I didn't know to which degree I would be satisfied. Like, if my percentage goes up by a couple percent, is that enough? Or I kind of stumbled around this one, but I just said if it improves in 2 weeks, and then just keep doing it.
Yeah, well, I think as a coach, I mean, we talk about your play, is how's it transferring into your game and your performance, if you will. I think that's when you know that it's actually, improving. I think it's improvements in challenges as you're practicing, but at the same time, the whole point of this is in your performances, is it improving? So I think you have to have measurable goals in your performances.
So during my rounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we would love to absolutely see this transfer into tournament play as well.
All right, great. So I think we just wrapped up with measurable. We're going to move on to attainable. So the first question here is, do I have the skills and willpower to carry out my goal? So this is kind of a yes or no question, I suppose. But Rick, do you think that you have the skills and
I got the
willpower?
power. I think I have the power.
All right, I think so. And do you have access to help when needed?
Definitely. I'm privileged and fortunate to have the access that I do.
Great. And do you have all the necessary resources?
I think what Roger said was before is what I kind of got to here. I wasn't sure if I have the tools in my toolkit to, make an analogy. I don't know if I have the right equipment. I could maybe tweak my yardages a little bit. Maybe my wedges are too old and the loft and line might have been altered over time. I think that's what I might need to do as well as get the baseline. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. But fundamentally, this question's in there because it's really important. You can do all this defining of a goal, but if you don't actually have the resources to carry it out, so really important just to check in. Do I have the ability to do all of these things? And thankfully, you're right. You have this incredible facility here at GPC to do that. But then there's lots of ways to take this goal onto it, even if you didn't. But really important to know whether or not you actually have those resources.
All right, and last question here for attainable. Do I have the time to carry out the goal?
Yep. I made it this far. I got to do it now, right? That's kind of how I thought about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to, as we head into relevant, right, the R and SMART goals, sometimes it also can be framed as realistic, right? We do want to make sure we have the time. Again, you don't want to set this goal up and realize that you don't have the time to actually put into the goal that you want to achieve. So definitely, really important question. Do you have the time?
Great. So moving into relevant, why is this goal important to you?
If it's the weakest part of my game that my coaches observed, my friends observed, and my dad observed, then I think it's probably something that will, if you think about overall performance and tournament play, I think it might take my scoring average to a point where I can compete at a more high level. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I thought about it.
Anything you would add?
Well, I'm just, kind of looking at your answer. You don't put that in there.
Yeah.
Well, this whole exercise is bringing clarity to your
Yeah, that's good.
But I think that is exactly right. I mean, you're doing this because ultimately you want to improve your score. And closer to the hole is going to, knock off points of a stroke. So that means something. That's why it's important.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah,
So
I think that's exactly right. Yes.
moving on to the next one, is this the right time for this goal?
Definitely. Season in the Northeast is upon us. It's going to start in April for me. So I got to get ready.
Time is now.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that too. Like really, again, really important here is this the right time for it? Making sure that the goal that you pick is actually relevant to what you need to work on and how you need to improve. Again, I know Rick is a golfer. He's incredible, really talented, and he knows very clearly that this is a really key part of his game that he knows if he improves, that will really make a difference in his scoring average. So this would be the right time, rather than focusing on some goal that wouldn't necessarily be most relevant to kind of what he's trying to aspire to. So yeah, I think it's really important to think about that as well.
And can I want to add to that too, is that a lot of junior golfers, and our audience is junior golfers specifically, is, time is almost at any time in your development, right? So I think you have to think about it as where you are. That's really important to be able to get that done, whether it's, maybe you're 10 years old, 11, 12, 14, 15, whatever it is. But if your goal is a bigger goal to play college golf, you've got to put that into the right time frame, which is its development time anytime.
Does that kind of tie into the same thing you were touching on earlier with the realistic? Is this
Yeah.
like a realistic thing for me?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I hear it a lot, parents and kids talking about goals that may not be relevant at that time.
Right.
And maybe they don't even know if it's relevant or not.
Yeah.
So is a coach kind of be the person to kind of help you with this answer?
Yes, you'd like to think that a coach is looking at looking at their development as the important part of this, not just the end result. And I think that's where we get caught up a lot of times is bottlenecks, real true development and setting better goals for young players out there, because I think they look at it's a means to an end to get a result versus I need this in my bag, if you will, to get better.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to jump in here too. Like I think to make sure when it's relevant, we really need to rely on the experts in our lives.
Yeah.
Right. Like you might think that it's important to hit the ball farther, but really when it's your wedge game, that's going to make the most difference. So whether it's doing analysis on your own, that only takes you so far. But really look to the experts in your life. Look to the coaches. Look to the people who know your game best, so that they can really help you identify the thing that would make the most significant difference for you at this time.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for us to look in the mirror sometimes and actually tell us the truth. Right? So I think a coach who should be looking out for your best interests really matters.
That's right.
So how will this goal help you in the future?
Yeah, this one was an interesting one. I thought going through the process of trying to get better at this specific area of my game, that when I go out on the course and I know that I've put the work in and that I've been set up for success with my coaching staff, with the people helping me, that I would have more confidence. And then I would also learn a lot about just going into this experience, trying to different things with the wedges and all that. I thought I would have more experience in how to practice this in the future.
You just have experience that doesn't seem very specific.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, so maybe we can add experience in the process of goal setting and SMART goal setting specifically to. Awesome. Anything you would add?
Yeah, I wonder too if it would, what are your aspirations for future tournament play, right? This might, how will this goal help you in the future?
Yeah.
Maybe it helps you qualify for, the U.S.A.M., right?
Mm-hmm.
So to think about it that way too. You're close, right? Love it. Yeah, don't be afraid to add those inspirational words, right?
Yeah.
That's really important. Absolutely, U.S.A.M.
Awesome.
As long as I can caddy.
Okay.
All right, so we are relevant. Moving on to time bound. So when are you planning on achieving this goal?
That was tough. I put 1 month from now because I thought if I do 2 weeks and then 2 more weeks, hopefully I would get somewhere by that point. And it also corresponds to when my tournament schedule starts. I don't know if it's realistic or not, but that's my goal for getting at least a noticeable improvement.
Perfect space to talk through whether or not it's
I don't know if that's enough time. So I think, again, back to, what you're trying to do this for, you're not even getting a point into your tournament schedule to get the feedback that you're actually looking for. So I think really it needs to be a longer period of time. I think you'll see improvement based on the challenges that you give yourself from a practice, plan. But you're not going to know if you achieve your goal until you get enough data to actually, verify it or not.
Yeah, and I think as humans in general, we often will underestimate the amount of time that it actually takes to accomplish a goal. So something like taking 10 feet off of proximity to the hole might take you longer than you think. So, again, you need to be realistic. Sometimes you want to set a goal to kind of push you a little bit, right? So if you give yourself 6 months to do this, so it'll kind of push you to accomplish that goal. But make sure you're also clear about how long it actually will take you. A lot of changes, again, given your skill, it might not take as long, but be patient with yourself too. So don't put too much time, which makes you procrastinate, but also don't set yourself up for failure by setting too short of a time.
Yeah, it's a process. And Jordan Spieth, had that goal, very similar goal at 100 yards and in. a few years ago that his wedge game it sucked, right? And he was wanting to improve that. It took him 18 months to realize, because he needed the data from the tournament performance, right? So to actually see, did the work pay off?
All right, and when are you going to carry out the activities that are going to bring you to this goal?
I said 3 days per week for 1 month. That's pretty, I don't know, it might not be specific enough. But,
Yeah, what time of day?
right.
When do you work best? When do you have, facility access? All of those are going to be barriers to your progress.
I guess I'll have to answer those.
Yeah, and our brain likes a plan, right?
Yeah.
So the more specific you can get, the more likely you're going to do it too. So I love what you just said, Roger. Like, I will do this from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I like, again, going back to what Roger just said, I don't know if a month is enough time. So might want to bump that up a little bit.
No faith, guys.
No, we know that you have talent, and you can acquire some skills pretty quickly, but.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
All right, good.
I love it.
All right, and when can you expect the first outcomes?
I think hopefully if I can play a little bit, if the snow melts and get out there and practice and get on the turf, and I do my reassessment 2 weeks from now, maybe then I can actually see some movement with the numbers. That also, now that I say it, might be too soon.
So I want to hold Rick a little more accountable because I love Rick so much. Rick, you just said that when the snow melts, but you happen to be privileged enough to be in one of the most technically advanced golf academies I've ever seen. Do we have Foresight? Do we have TrackMan? Do we have lots of other ways that you could practice this without hitting out into the range?
Thank you, Dr. Brand. I was about to just hit him over the head with that.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right, before we wrap up with time bound, I just have a question for the experts here. If there is someone who has a very long-term goal, so we're looking at Rick's, this is a month from now, maybe somebody has something written down for even further out, maybe 4 months. How would you recommend people go through that process of sticking with a SMART goal when it's very far away, that they're going to see whether or not they met that goal?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great question. I mean, honestly, it starts from desire to want to improve. So I think you have to have some inner drive to say, okay, am I going to follow through or carry through with this goal? But then there's the, again, the results of my practice, right? So am I challenging myself enough to keep interest? And I think a lot of times what happens is players, set these goals and then again, back to non-specific practice, and they get lazy about it. And then all of a sudden it becomes boring. And all of a sudden it becomes, why am I doing this? Versus, I believe, and the research will support, that humans like challenges. And I think if we can challenge ourselves enough daily on this specific goal, then the interest remains. And I think you'll find that you'll carry that through much more. Again, especially if your desire there is to improve, get better at it.
Yeah, and I think you got to be careful about setting goals too far in the distance as well. That can be a setup. And oftentimes those longer term goals are comprised of a lot of other mini goals. So I think it's wonderful to have big picture goals, but there's often a series of little goals that you need to achieve in order to even get to that point. So yes, and by being specific about those goals that will get you to that step, or to get you to that bigger goal, that will also help motivate you as well.
Right. I just want to add, and I think this is really more for the audience here, again, back to setting goals that are in a certain time bound, is that we'll hear quite often, players and parents setting goals of playing collegiate golf and they're only 10 years old, which you're talking about a time, a goal spanning a long time, which is again why we have the coach guided PDI assessments, and the assessments is to track that over time. So I think it's really scary that when you say I'm a 10-year-old, my kid's going to play college golf, or I wouldn't play college golf. It's scary even at 15 to set that same goal. However, you got to know what are the lead factors, as you were just saying, the mini goals up to that. I think, again, if we're looking at development, that means something all along the way and not just, hey, this goal is out there. So it's, am I improving today? why am I improving today? How do I improve tomorrow? So more of a long-term development approach or mindset, and again, getting those mini goals out of the way.
You bring up the assessment, Roger. That's when I was doing this, that was the one thing that became so apparent to me is like, everyone told me it's bad, but I don't know how bad. I'm like kind of wandering. I'll
Right.
practice and I'm hitting it well.
Right.
And then I get this feedback, but I don't even know how bad the situation is.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most looking forward to doing, to like assess the situation and then go from there.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to do it.
Great. So moving on to resistance. This is a really, I think, important facet of SMART goals. It's a little R tailored to the end here because you're going to run into some resistance when you're working on your goals like we were just talking about. So Rick, for resistance, what are the possible problems that you may encounter on the road to reaching your goal?
I said if I can't practice outside, and then I also said if I don't see results as soon as I want to, I don't get better.
What advice would you have for someone who's not seeing results?
Most likely you're not practicing with a right purpose. I think that's a big part of it. I think the other part of that is you're also, resistance could be coming from outside, right? I mean, meaning, hey, we know parents have the right intentions, but I think sometimes the pressure of improvement becomes a resistance, not a helper. But that can be for different discussion.
Yeah, and I think too, specific to the question, like what problems may, and you might add to this, right? So, going back into your spreadsheet or your PDI, your profile, you can always add into this. So, really, whatever you put in here, Rick, I like, right? So, frustration about not getting better. I would also ask you, I don't get better. Why is that a problem, right? Again, could you be specific about? I worry, I often struggle with slow improvement, or I get frustrated with, right? And so getting a little clearer on what that actual problem is will help you identify a solution easier too. So.
Yeah, I often find when I practice, when I start trying to focus on one thing, it gets worse before it gets better, which is tough sometimes.
Yeah, struggle is tough.
But ultimately, I think when you experience that it gets worse first, and then it's going to get better if you persist, then just to kind of expect it.
Yeah, so Britt, I think he may have answered number 2 already.
Yeah, it seems like it. All right, so then we'll move on to the third point here. So what are the resources that you can use to solve the list of problems?
Schedule and stick to the plan. Mm-hmm. It's pretty vague.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
What else? Now that we've kind of gotten to this, what else do you think from a player perspective?
It sounds like technology.
It's got to be measured. You want to have some measurement to know, right?
Yep. The fitters are my club coaches. Mm-hmm. Equipment.
The right equipment, yeah. The right equipment.
I think having not just showing up to GPC National with my wedges and the golf balls I use to chip.
Yeah.
Just I'll just go out, figure it out. Maybe having some sort of structured practice.
Yeah.
When I come to the facility.
Yeah, and I think there's another part of this equipment. We talk about the clubs. Balls. What balls react best. When it comes to your approach or feel. You're at that level of that means something to you. Distance may not, but feel around the greens and the controllability of the golf ball.
So I want to hold you accountable, Rick, because that's why we're doing this. So be careful, right? So you said, what are the possible problems you encounter? I don't get better. I can't practice outside. We want to make sure that, when you answer the question, one of the easiest ways to solve those problems are, you answer that specific question reference to the problems too. I just want to make sure the folks at home, when they're watching, that they're not confused by that. So you want to make sure that the solutions to the problems you identify, right, are connected to the problems that you're identifying. That make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And I'm looking at this, I'm a really visual person, so I might even put 2 lines down the center of that column. And if you have multiple possible problems that are coming to mind, maybe go down and answer each question specifically for those problems, so that you have everything organized and you know exactly how you're going to address those problems moving forward. And as Rick is working on this, we'll look ahead to the next section here. So who are the people that you can ask for help if you encounter these problems?
Yeah, so I kind of answered this one as if I was a junior again. My parents don't drive me around to work every morning.
Yeah.
I put my coach and my parents, I have to get to the facility. So I guess in this regard, I have to stick to my schedule. If I'm hungry or I'm not feeling like it after a long day, I have to overcome that. I guess that would be my answer, because as an adult, I'm fully responsible for what I'm doing.
Yeah, but you have people around you that you share your life with, so those are all people that can help you, hold yourself accountable, hold you accountable to your goals.
Dr. Brandt will hold you accountable
Yeah.
with this.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the last question here for resistance. What are some inspirational words you'll turn to when the problems become too difficult?
I put get better every day.
Yeah, and I know this sometimes can seem silly to somebody, right? Especially to adolescents, right? Thinking about inspirational words, it doesn't seem like it would have all that much of an effect. But trust me, there's a lot of really good research about positive self-talk, motivational self-talk. So especially when you're having a difficult time like Rick, so if you're frustrated by your lack of progress, reminding yourself, get better every day or trust the process, that will really help you work through that as well. So I know it seems like it can be silly, but it can really have a powerful impact as well.
Yeah, and I think reframing, as you said earlier, reframing that, I suck versus I didn't play as I like to. I'm working on getting better. I'm not as bad today as I was yesterday. Those kind of things I think really mean a whole lot to again, continue to reach your goals.
I feel way better now.
Yeah.
Very
Cool.
good.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right.
All right, you have a SMART goal. So what do we do now?
Good question. So we're going to go back to the presentation here. We're walking away tonight. We've gone through my number one weakness and made it a specific SMART goal. And I'm going to, Dr. Brent, I know we have a kind of a next steps document that's going to allow everyone to go and replicate that with goal number 2 and number 3.
Yep.
And then also some tips on implementation plans.
Yeah, so at the end of that document that we linked for you, there's something called an implementation plan or an action plan. And I highly recommend you take your goal or your goals, your top 3 goals. You'll have to do it separately, but work that goal, work that SMART goal, the plan that we just devised. And you don't have to go through every question. The way I set it up was so that you just take the red bolded questions and you kind of fill them in. And again, it'll walk you through at the end of that document. But really what you'll have then is you'll have a really clear outline of how to start working on your goal, with not just the step-by-step process, but also, and I'm a big believer in kind of the resistance piece, you'll know exactly what to do when something stops you, when something gets in your way. So that'll make that path to your greatness that much easier.
Awesome. So guys, yeah, that's the link to the next steps document to do just that. You can also find it in the YouTube chat. And lastly, you actually have SMART goals for this workshop. You have a homework assignment to complete 2 more SMART goals and then upload them to your Junior Golf Hub account. If you haven't had your account started already, you can go to juniorgolfhub.com and sign up. Is this attainable? Yes, of course it is. Is it relevant? Yes. And maybe a time-bound goal for you to complete all this homework would be by the end of the week.
And you're going to hold them accountable.
Yes. We're going to follow up with you.
There you go.
So where do my goals go on the hub? We're going to take you in to the app here. I have my profile up, and we have this new tab front and center on your dashboard where you can actually enter your SMART goals. I'm really excited because it's going to, every time I pop in the app now, it's going to hit me right in the face. So my number one weakness was my wedge game sucks, and I'm going to, Dr. Brandt, help me. My goal, my SMART goal was...
I will. Right? I will increase the proximity. What is it again? So I will improve my distance control from 100 to 120 yards by decreasing my average proximity to the hole from 30 to 20 feet.
Gotta work on my typing too.
Back to your second goal.
Perfect. Great. All right, I'm going to save that in my goals area of my profile. And then if I go back to my profile, you can see there's me and my dad and me swinging the golf club. I have my SMART goal there. I just updated it, and it's also going to live on my homepage. There's my number one goal. And I look forward to taking my second and third weaknesses and turning those into goals for the season. So that's how you do that, guys. Any questions? We're going to open up to questions now. Oh, actually, before we get to the questions, we want to announce that we're going to, for everyone here tonight, especially the premium members, we're going to have a second review session to kind of check in with you and see, hold you accountable to what you've decided your goals are and your implementation strategies. We're going to check back in with you in about a month's time, see how you're doing with the Junior Golf Hub tool and your SMART goals for this year. So if you're not a premium member yet, we can all look forward to that, and you can upgrade to premium in the next couple weeks. Cool. It's going to be awesome. All right, so questions. Do we have any questions? Where can I find more resources on goal setting?
Yeah, I would say, the internet is filled with as many resources as you want. We have geared this one specifically for the Hub members, and I think it's a really great way to do it. It walks you through step by step, but there's a million resources online. So if you just Google SMART goals, you'll get more than you could ever imagine.
And that's all our only question for tonight. So everyone, thank you so much for attending. We hope you got a lot out of it. If you missed it, we're going to send it out. But again, big shout out to Coach Heenan and his girls golf team. Thank you guys for popping in and everyone else for taking the time tonight to learn about goal setting. I certainly learned a lot.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. Yeah.
And I know we were talking about this before we went on air, how important mental health is these days. Anxiety, depression, lots of different mental illnesses are on the rise, and we want to make sure that parents listening, coaches listening, even all the Hub members, please take the time to check in with yourselves, check in with your kids, check in with your friends. There's a lot going on, and mental health is such an important part of your success as well. And there's a lot of good resources out there. Mentalhealth.gov is a really good one. But please reach out to a professional if you're really struggling.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Morant. Thank you, Brittany. Thanks, Rick. Well done. And we hope to see you again soon.